Hello, Manitonquat. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
We've got an integrated.
With all this technology
So
stuff.
yeah, thank you for your patience with the technology. But I would like to just welcome you to this festival. It's been an amazing journey, a lot of unity, a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge and innovation we've been listening to, and I'm really glad that you could join us. And yeah, thank you for this.
Great. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm delighted that you're doing all this.
And wait, you should come on, Shannon. You know Shannon. Shannon is here.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, Story. How nice to see you.
Yes, it's great to be here. It's wonderful we can do this.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's what it's for. This is the good side of technology.
Yeah.
And let's use it to listen to a beautiful story that you can share with us.
You know, I'm here in Ireland with a group of people who have been, for the last 3 years, they've been listening to me and coming together in circles, because my mission in life is to connect people. I understand that all the problems we have in the world, and I'm sure you do, and many people do, all of our problems come from our separation from each other. We have all been living through what Charles Eisenstein calls the story of separation. And that affects our education, it affects our foreign policy, our politics, our economics, everything, the whole of life, so that it's really hard to get out of that story. But now we have people like yourselves who have for some time been a story of real. I'm here in Ireland at this time working with people who understand that, and yet all of us are a bit caught in the old story still. There are places where we hurt each other without realizing it, places where we increase the separation without meaning to, without understanding that's what we're doing. We think, well, we can straighten this person out, but we're increasing the separation instead of reuniting. We are all one being, seeing the world with many different eyes, which is great, because then we have all these different prospects of all these possibilities, and we're creative, and that gives us a chance to recreate the world in human terms. But we have to understand it is a very inhuman world right now, and each of us do our part in entering into that new story without pushing it. Just being aware is how we grow, because we grow organically. So we do it by listening to each other. And that's what I'm teaching. I teach a process I call supportive listening. It's an outgrowth of co-counseling, which I've been doing for 40 years. But co-counseling is a separate community, and you have to join that community and be part of it. And I want it to be more available, and so I bring it out to the world in a different form, where we can just sit down. My next project is a teacher's guide to teach people how to teach people to listen and how to support them. And then after that, the next part of my story is I'm going to put together a lot of articles I've been writing on a certain subject. The lead article will be the title of the book, which is A Permaculture of the Heart. Because I understand we're doing really well with our relationship with the earth and the plants. We got it down, what makes a tree flourish and bloom and blossom and give us fruit. And different times, everything about that we're good at. But we still haven't figured out human relationships yet. Many times. My wife and I, bless her, we've been together 31 years, and we're more in love every day we wake up. and it's amazing. The more you have, the more you give, and it increases like that. So I'm working on what does it take for human beings to flourish, to be at their best. What, and I think a little baby, when he's first born, looks for another human face and locks into our eyes and looks at our intelligence there. How do I relate to this? They know immediately that's what we belong. We need each other. In this the age of separation, we're supposed to be all independent and take care of everything for ourselves. And that's hard. And it's creating all these wars and everything that we have, and the trivialization of life through our commercialism and our TV and all those things. And we're wasting our lives away when we have so much energy and so much love, and we could be making it so amazing. I want to just pull in for everybody. My friend Charles Eisenstein, I had a talk with him in September at ZEG, and you should look into, if you get anything out of books at all, look into a book that he's written called The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. Because we all know that a more beautiful world is possible, and we have an idea of how that should be. We probably can't even imagine how good it could be once we get there, but we see the path ahead. We feel our way. So what do human beings need? I think, to begin with, they need other human beings to reflect on themselves. They need to be seen and heard. More than just to be heard, they need to be understood. And more than just to be understood, they need to be accepted. And more than just to be accepted, I think they need to be valued. That, yeah, you have a worth in this world. You are equal to everybody. You have a gift to give. Let's share our gifts. So those are the things that I'm looking for in our supportive listening, as to how we can show each other, give to each other the listening, the understanding, the acceptance, and the value that we're all seeking. We can do it for each other. I got to tell you, I had two sons, ages 40 and 36. They have incredibly beautiful wives who are they're so in love with them, there's so much support, and they have wonderful children who are just the gems of the world. And they're much better fathers than I was. Oh my God, all I did was just try and make a community in which they could flourish. And they've gone way beyond. And I can't even imagine my grandchildren are going to be the next generation, bringing that even further on. You know, they're so wonderful. And anybody that hangs out with kids will understand that they know our value. They know what it is to be human. They know what's best about life. I had a friend of mine who had a daughter, and he was learning from her, and she had her reaction to the world she had down into two words. Everything was either yum or yuck. And we know that basic feeling. We know what's yummy. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Or the yuck, that doesn't feel good at all. So if we follow our true natures, we are following something that made us human in the first place. It made us human to communicate and support each other. That's what a circle is for, to help each other. When you help the circle helps you. So you think about, what do they need? What does the circle need? And as it grows, we all grow with it. So it's like we have two stories going on in the world. They're simultaneous right now. We have the old story of separation. It's still into the world there. We turn on the news. There it is. Everybody's, America's having their elections now, and in one of the parties, all they can do is just try and destroy each other. I can't imagine what's going to come out of this election. They're shooting each other down all the time. And, you know, that's separation at its ultimate. But we also have this need to be together, this valuation of how it is. And part of that is about creativity. And creativity is about beauty. And we want this more beautiful world. Beauty is part of the motivation. We know it. When it's beautiful, we know it. And we move in that direction. And we also love where our compassion is involved with that too. So we move in the directions of helping, of creating, of loving. And every move we make makes it closer and brings that more beautiful world our hearts know is possible closer to us. And it's happening here in this community here where I am right now in Ireland. And I've been presenting this kind of stuff. And they've been looking at themselves and saying, okay, who am I? What do I want? What do I love? What feels good? We kids and said, teach me how to play. We'll be getting back into that. Creativity is play. So we're figuring out about playing and having more playtime together and more play days together and so on. And some of us are still, often not, me included, stuck in the old stuff. And we get critical and we want to straighten things out, and we're increasing the separation instead of trying to pull it together again and really care and listen with each other.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. I feel like I could listen to you for another 2 hours. Oh, such pearls of wisdom, Story. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for joining us. And,
well, thank you for doing this, and it's a great pleasure for me to be speaking to all the people that are listening to you right now. I hope it goes further and further.
We're gonna be sending this out all over the world, and we thank you for seeding this in Ireland and spreading this vision of planetary unity and collaboration and co-creation to celebrate the world that we know is possible. We're birthing it now.
What I'd like to acknowledge, Story, is that you have reached out through your contacts throughout Europe and North America.
Yes.
And thank you very much for that.
Yes.
I truly treasure your presence in the world. The work that you've done over
I have to say, it's not me, it's my elders. They gave me, the First Nation elders that I went to, gave me the first understanding of what life should be about, the way the traditional ways were, the way it was for all people in the old days. And they told me, go wherever I'm invited. Don't go unless you're invited, because we don't want to be missionaries. But invite you, you go and you talk about what brings people together in circles. And
you've been invited here, Story.
Okay.
You're going to come and visit us.
You're invited to Rotterdam, Story.
Great. Great.
We're having a convergence on the 19th to the 23rd of April. So I'm going to send you an email and we'll see if you're available.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm supposed to be in Wisconsin at the Organic Valley sometime around that time. I'm not sure if it overlaps.
Well, we're going to be here for a while, so
yeah, good. Keep going.
Open door. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Story. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Okay, so let me, we're obviously with, we had to change links with the presentation, and we're running a little bit behind schedule. So I'm saying this more for the speakers who are supposed to come up. We can postpone everything by about 15 minutes. That should be, and then we'll slowly start to get back on track, I'm sure. So without further ado, welcoming two beautiful ladies who are going to speak to us about evolutionary social architectures. Anne-Marie and Andrea. Maybe you want to introduce yourselves? Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey.
Well, this is a lovely place in the program to follow up after these wonderful stories about love. I'm Anne-Marie Voorhoeve, part of many networks, and now very happy to contribute to the United Earth, founder of the Hague Center for Global Governance, Innovation and Emergence, also part of the Club of Budapest, and really working to see how we can spread the evolutionary social architects around the world with the School of Social Alchemy. Do you want to say something first before I continue?
My name's Andrea, and some of you will have seen me earlier today. I'm part of the NewMap team, which is a technological platform for co-creation. I'm also part of the broader United Earth family here, and here actively in Rotterdam, building what we're calling this Synergy Hub project, which I'll probably mention in this conversation. NewMap is really a system that is here to empower what I see to be a new social architecture. And having just listened to the former conversation, there was a lot of talk of oneness and the underlying oneness everywhere nature of the planet that we live in. And as a social architecture, it's very much what I'm interested in, and I'll be able to share more as we talk. But I'm going to let Anne-Marie begin.
So this is the section of the wheel about governance and justice, and it's focusing on the evolutionary social architects, because if we really want to come up with a new governance and new justice systems, we, as Story was just sharing, we need to really embody this sense of unity in everything that we do. This new paradigm that's already here, but that we're now giving form to from unity perspective, the holographic, what you shared also in your story about NewMap. If you really think that through, it has enormous consequences for how we organize ourselves. And we are with groups of people that really love to do that kind of work, to facilitate that by practicing it first ourselves, because that's where it starts. As Chief Phil Lane and John said, it starts from within. So that's what I've been doing for many, many years. As a child, I came in a situation where there was a civil war, and my response to that was really about, wow, this is not fair, it's not necessary, why are we doing this? How can we do this differently? So I see it as my life path to really co-create a world in harmony with nature, resonating and attuned to the universal heart. And that's what I practice myself and offer the world. And that's where I find, well, my soulmates here in all the networks around and in United Earth. So really so happy. And then, wow, great that it is here in the Netherlands, because that is easy to be here. That's a bit selfish, but I'm really so thankful for the Meesteren Foundation to give us this opportunity to really ground this here. So do you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Anne-Marie. I think I'll share, as Anne-Marie has done, a little bit of my history and entryway into what I'm doing here with incredible evolutionary architects, something that I think is an emerging field, and we'll come on to talking about what that involves. But my journey here was really, I spoke about this earlier in the context of NewMap, and I'll just share a little bit more about it. As a student, I was very interested in what I call the feminine values and feminine ways of experiencing reality, and it often actually gets described as spirituality. But if we look at it from a psychological perspective, the feminine being in all of us, it's actually a way of experiencing reality that is being suppressed culturally. And what we looked at from the lens of feminism was how public structures have been designed from a masculine point of view, and again, not male, masculine. And what masculine means is to kind of perceive the world in a particular way, to kind of filter it through a certain value system. It's often external. It's often what people describe as logical and rational. It is often very linear in the way that it expresses itself, and mechanized. And the feminine is often described as inward and feeling-based and intuitive and non-linear. So when we look at the design of public structures, they've actually designed with one half of the brain or one half of ourself active. And my question was, how do we design systems that are for the whole person? And then actually in that context, if we look at all of our public structures, businesses, corporations, government, they're all designed in this context. So now, as an evolutionary architect, and at that time as a young student, what I wanted to see is us wipe the slate clean and say, how would we design our structures if they were built in this whole way? And what begins to happen when we look at it through that lens is they look very different. They're actually not neither masculine or feminine to get rid of that polarity. To me, they're integral, and they embody everything that matters to all of us. But they're much more natural-like in their expression. So that gives you a little bit of my context for this, and how I've arrived with this beautiful team of evolutionary architects.
Yes. So doing this yin-yang dance, seeing that there are certain moments that we really need to come and wait and not move forward immediately, rest in the unknown, feel whatever we feel, whether it's pain, joy, and then at a certain point, of course, there's also necessary that we really take a step forward and that we do something. But can we still keep that connection in the circle? That is what, what we're really trying to practice. And there are all kinds of social architecture, all kinds of tools for that can support us to do that. And so what we've been developing is different ways of working together within ourselves, in dyads, triads, in small groups, large groups, and then moving toward, as was just shared, everybody all at once. That's what we're longing for. So but we feel that you first also need to do that other practices before we can really be ready for that. And, well, we're ready anyway. When it happens, it happens. And it's really, so it might sound, evolutionary social architects, what is that? Is that it might sound perhaps that it's something that is complicated, but it's not. And there is a lot of practice that is to be done. But if you can find the entrance to your heart, like the former presenters just talked about, it suddenly becomes much more easy. Mm-hmm. And I think that is also part of the gift of women, that they, in some way, that we are more structured to sense with our hearts. So that's why I also feel that as women we really have to step into our rightful place, and we don't always know exactly what that is. So that's why it's great when we have friends around us that really also invite us to take that place in, because that is also part of the practice. And then especially bringing in that feminine part of us in this period. It's sometimes more easy for women if they are with more than one, because on your own it's very different than doing it with a few of us. That is how we can connect. So that's something that we're offering the world in our practice, actually.
Yeah, like the thing that Anne-Marie just mentioned is this can sound complicated, what I actually find is humanity has complicated everything, and we're actually rediscovering what it means to be natural. Like the thing that I come up against generally in groups working for me in a natural way is people are process too much. We try and project into the future artificially. We think that we're here to work very hard and everything's a very difficult task. Time and money, the time-money paradigm has brought about that conditioning for us. So what does it look like to return to nature, to actually hear our bodies speaking, to actually feel in? Do we feel good? Do we feel excited? Do we want to be here? What am I inspired to create today? It's not about making money, or it's not about actually having to deliver to a deadline. We've forgotten what it is like to be natural. So what is complicated has been made complicated by the systems that we've been born into. And for me, working with a balanced approach is about rediscovering our natural self, just remembering what it's like to be natural and play together. And we're beginning with that natural process. I think what's interesting for us as the architects is beginning to bring that into systems. So for example, in the technology I work with, we're looking at how we create spaces for the unknown to emerge. What does that look like in a technology? It's very different to, for example, a standard project management tool. So I think that's the evolution of it. But to begin with, it's about rediscovering our natural human self.
Yes, and I'd like to add to that what on the one hand, being able to stay in that unknowing and being together and really sensing, and it's also necessary, I think, and also to, at a certain point, agree with each other. What am I going to be doing? When am I going to connect to you? When am I going to deliver and map and track what we're doing? And that's why new map is so important, because it's also about taking the next step and not only sitting in circle. Sitting in circle is great practice, but we at a certain point also need to come into action, because I think that is also part of our system, our natural system. There is growth, there is movement, the balance is never static. There's always a balancing movement. So so in the processes that we design, there's always this call, okay, what is your heart calling you to do? What is it that could create a breakthrough now? What are the conditions that are needed to be put in place to create that breakthrough? And what is my first next natural step? And take that step with swiftness, precision, and love, as we used to say as we say at the Center for Human Emergence, and then look again. What's happened? What has changed because I took that step like that, or we took that step as a group, or everybody all at once? And then look again and observe and listen. I'm very interested to hear more about stories, experiences about the deep listening, because I think that's also a very important part for governance and justice, that we really go into those kind of those kind of practices.
So something, Anne-Marie, as you were sharing that in terms of, like, from a new map perspective, new map is a social technology, but what becomes before the technology is the social design. How are we going to apply it? Once we get into exploring that social design, it becomes very clear that we need technology to be much smarter and kind of deal with the complexity the complex system that can support us to be fully flowing in the way Anne-Marie described. So some of the things to share about NewMap are, one example is how we work in real time together and how we synchronize. So rather than like in the past, using current systems, we might create a project and we might predict by the time we finished all our tasks, we will complete it by X date, and then everybody will be happy. And then in between, from that point of this planning to the deadline, all amount of random things can happen. Yeah, variables. We're not robots, So we end up working in this mechanized way, which is really unhealthy for us, in these systems of linearity. Now, if we look at modern technology and using something like NewMap, what we can do is allow people to create in the now, and then allow the technology to synchronize us in real time. So an example we use in NewMap is I could map what I'm doing today, I could map something I need, and I could map an intention. And then NewMap can say, Andrea, do you know there's somebody like down the road who has the same intention and is available right now? And you can take that as a microcosm for something we can do globally. We can begin to synchronize in natural time and create in natural time rather than artificially predicting into the future and creating a lot of pain for ourselves. So that's one example of how technology can bring new architectures to support us in doing things in an entirely new way. I think something we use a lot is a living system.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
To describe that.
No, that's great, because what I also know that in order for NewMap to do that, I need to show up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I need to show up, and I need to show up from my natural place, what I am supposed to be doing. The better I do that, the more we can come into flow,
Mm-hmm.
and the more the system can support us to really get this synchronicity and let us joyfully achieve our tasks. Not meaning that it's always only fun. I mean, joy can also be profoundly painful, but if we really do it in a life-affirming way and we are felt seen and supported by others, then I feel that in that pain there also can be some kind of life-affirming energy, which I also consider somewhere as joy.
Mm-hmm. I think, are we all right for time, Jan?
Yeah, I'd say about another 10 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, we can
just
keep
move
going.
along.
It's okay, I'll go.
Can you maybe give some pointers as to, like, in terms of practical terms, what would be the key characteristics of these new social architectures that we're thinking of, or that are emerging?
The key characteristics of the tools,
Yeah.
and the architectures.
Yeah.
I've got a list here. Somebody wants to jump in.
Well, I think if I speak about social architects, the people, I think that's why we called it evolutionary social architects. The perspective of that all is interconnected, is profound and important. The connection to the heart, as we were already mentioning before, being curious of what is happening, and what I feel really supports me and the team at the Hague Center and the School of Social Alchemy is having a notion of that there are different worldviews and different value systems around the world, and that you really check, because you're seeing somebody, for example, do something, but if you don't know why they are doing it and where they are coming from, you can make huge mistakes on interpreting what you're seeing. So having a notion of those value systems is I think, extremely important. And then, well, the art of hosting tools are available. They are, well, there's a long list of that, but I think these are, I would say for now, what I feel coming up as important.
I've got a few more to add to that one. Pretty much everything I would have shared, Anne-Marie. One is creating spaces that allow for full expression, full creative expression of the human being, and being able to, like, organize in a way that supports their sense of purpose and passion in life.
Yeah.
So not organizing around what's perceived as needed from the outside, but allowing it to come from within. And that's been a big theme today here, yeah, but creating from within, allowing the inspiration to come forth from within, and then creating from that point. Another property or characteristic of the social architectures is self-organization. So moving from top-down models of organization. We're a little over the schedule I'm just getting, so I'll keep this brief, but allowing ourselves to organize in a way that doesn't require power structures, control systems that don't kind of empower us into our fullest free expression. One of the most important ones for me is organizing collectively and seeing what we can do collectively rather than working from the perspective of one person or a silo, which is at the heart of NewMap what we call organizing synergistically to create a synergistic society. So the whole is always greater than the parts, and the magic is in that wholeness. I've got a lot more here, but
well, I would like to add something that what I also feel important is we're not alone here as humans. So there are so many other dimensions. So how can we practice and train ourselves, learn to also co-create with the non-visible beings, the energy, and be open to that, and let ourselves be guided, let ourselves be inspired, and co-create in that sense. So that energetic realm, in one of the earlier talks, we spoke about the material architecture, the relational architecture, the energetic architecture. I see in that energetic architecture also all these energies that that don't have the form like we have, but are still very present and alive and want to play as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
Well, thank you for giving us this opportunity.
There's lots more
Let's
to share.
co-create more. Yes.
We are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. So we'll be moving right along. We've had Jean Marie and Troy from the Global Sovereignty Alliance waiting patiently. Thank you. Apologies for being a little bit behind schedule. Your mics are getting unmuted. Jean Marie, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud
Beautiful.
and clear. And Troy?
Beautiful. Thank you, Jan.
Beautiful hat.
Thank you, Jan.
Can you guys hear me okay as well?
I can hear kind of okay. There's quite feedback. Are you communicating with Jean Marie on Skype simultaneously, or?
I have Skype disabled. It's actually on.
Okay.
I'm good. Is it better?
Check 1, 2.
There's still a bit of an echo on your read for some reason. What? What? She's got headphones? Have you got headphones, Jean?
I have headphones on.
She's got headphones on. There's a bit of funny echo.
Take the headphones off?
How does it sound for you, Troy?
I'm hearing it good. No echo at the moment.
You're not hearing any echo. Maybe if you just, maybe it's on my side. Maybe if you guys just share your wisdom and passion and what you do and why you do it. We can.
All right. I guess it's good to hear it twice anyway, right? I just wanted to thank you and everyone at United Earth for this vibrant, all-encompassing festival. It's fantastic so far, and I know it took a lot of effort. So I would love to see it quarterly, the live gatherings such as this going forward. I think we're at a point now where we can all gather our individual resources and make a true magic, consistently. So I just want to introduce myself, and then I'm going to let Troy carry up after me. My name is Jean Marie, and I'm from Global Sovereign Alliance, and I'm honored to be here today, contributing on the topic of sovereignty, governance, and justice, which can be summarized into one word, actually, which is freedom. I believe all the topics in the United Earth Festival spin off the ability to freely choose your own health treatments, living conditions, and what energy source you choose. The ability to travel freely on the planet, having an education system that offers real knowledge and wisdom without censorship and brainwash techniques. I think the truth that's conveyed on mainstream media outlets would benefit greatly from the sovereignty aspect and the freedom of individuals, as well as having a voice in our day-to-day living conditions and feeling safe in doing so. I hope you can hear me okay, because I do hear a little bit of an echo there too. One of the things that I would like to bring up is you did ask, why am I doing this, or why are we doing this? And I just looked at the alternative and I found it unacceptable. My passion is helping bring children and young adults to self-empowerment and living from their heart. So, which will naturally and harmoniously flow into sovereignty, self-governance, and natural justice. And then the other question you asked was, what is needed? And can you still hear me? Yes? Okay, cool. Because the echo just stopped. So the other question you asked is what is needed, and I see that there's no shortage of brilliant ideas or projects on this planet, whether it's in the fields of technology, health, communications, permaculture, etc. What we really truly need, and the point that we're at right now, is to come together without ego, removing group labels and personal titles, to begin sharing our knowledge, tools, resources openly, and truly co-create what we all envision. So I think it can be done without full reliance on money once we begin to share freely. All of us at Global Sovereign Alliance are devoted to all these goals, and the same that I believe that every person that's been on and every person listening has. And that's why we're all here today, as well as working together with many of the presenters here. So what I would like to do is introduce Troy Mathisen, who's the co-founder of Global Sovereign Alliance, and who's very well read on the subjects of governance, justice, and sovereignty, i.e. freedom. And he can provide much more information on these subjects. And I believe that Troy's heart resonates with the core values that we all share. So, Troy, I'm going to let you speak, and I'll chime in if as needed. Thanks, Troy.
Oh, thank you, Jean Marie. Happy birthday to you, Jan.
Yes, happy birthday.
And thank you to you and all at United Earth for creating this festival and providing this forum for us to talk a little bit about how to go forward with a spirit of freedom. Where that really starts for us is our own belief, each and every one of us, that we can be free, we should be free, and that we truly are free. But to get past our own limitations, that which binds us, we have to own our freedom. And to get there, we've got to be able to get into a mind space of do no harm, allow no harm to be done to any other. And I think we're slowly coming to that realization. We all want others to do unto us as we would do unto them. We kind of need to make a personal pact, each and every one of us, with our own self. And that pact would involve do no harm and allow no other to be harmed in any way, without jumping into the defense of true right and justice. And Jean Marie brought up a good point on the idea of freedom. We talk a lot about sovereignty. We all tend to think of ourselves as citizens. That classification, let's call it, is actually a claim of employment by this ideology called the state. We need to kind of migrate away from this whole citizen thing and even transcend the sovereign citizen thing, because you can't be both a sovereign and a citizen. The citizen is basically under rule or subject to the will of the state or others, and the sovereign is defined as someone with absolute rule. If we start thinking of ourselves less as citizens but move into the sovereignty headspace, we're going to find ourselves in trouble, because subconsciously we think to ourselves that, hey, since I'm a sovereign, I'm a king or a queen upon the land. That means I have to have others around me to help me do my bidding. We really need to kind of think more as being free sentient beings instead of being sovereigns. And so how do we get there? We've got to get rid of all of these legal instruments, okay? we also have to get rid of the idea that anything that is legal is a law. Okay, we can't allow policies, which is really what a legal instrument is. It's really the policy of a group, to be applicable across the board to each and every. You know, we've really got to learn there's a huge difference between the law and that which is legal. You know, when we talk about law, we're talking about a resonance with our Creator. And with that comes a responsibility if, as a steward of our Creator's other creations. I mean, we're not being in harmony with ourselves if we can't do that in our creative outward expressions towards each and every other being, whether they be human or not. You know, if we're the most intelligent beings on the planet, we've got to start acting like it. And so I think we are getting the information out there slowly but surely. The big challenge right now is depending on ourselves, not relying on any other to keep our act together. You know, we've got over 80 million statutes, for example, here in the United States, so we really need to bring it down to a basic foundation that you could teach anybody at, certainly by the age 10 they have it, so that by the time they actually become of age and are an adult, they've had a good 6, 8, 10 years of training their conscious, so that that training moves into the subconscious and eventually into the unconscious realm. And so what we've been working on, me and a bunch of people that work in law and governance, is that we've got to get to the point where everybody can learn the rules. And to do that, we've got to kind of say, okay, if we look at that which is lawful, and that which is lawful is absolutely defined by our Creator, really. You know, we as men and women don't get to make laws. We as men and women should be following them. And so what we need to do is take this legal framework and kind of throw it out and start with a new set of principles that each and everybody can learn, so that we can transcend the ideas of race and class and gender and privilege. All of these things are constructs that are absolutely crippling us as a unified species. So what we've been doing is we've been looking at what is the law really supposed to be about. We've got two tenets of universal natural law, which we'll call divine law, for example. Do no harm and assist any other being caused harm. Those are the two tenets of natural, divine, universal law. When we talk about business, we're talking about an arrangement, for example, between Jan and I. Jan and I decided to come together, and I'm going to help Jan with the website, for example. And it's hearsay if I cause Jan any harm or the other thing happens. So we need what's called a reaccord or a record. That's where contracts come into play. When we look at contracts, yes, there's technically under the law, but there are 4 tenets to every contract. That is full disclosure of the terms and conditions of the arrangement. That is equal consideration, in other words, mutually beneficial. That the lawful terms have been expressed. I mean, obviously, I can't go to Jan and say, "Hey, bro, I know you make $100 a day, but guess what? I'll pay you $2,000 if you go steal a car from me." That's not lawful. So that's the 3rd tenet, and then the 4th tenet is the appropriate wet signatures. That's the signature of myself, Jan in this particular example, and 2 witnesses, so that it exists as more than just hearsay. Because if Jan does have a grievance with me later on, and it was just a verbal arrangement, that accord that we were talking about, and the reaccord or record doesn't exist, it's hearsay. Nobody else witnessed that. And we need people that are witnesses, which means that they are fully educated and knowing of the situation, and it's been agreed to. Beyond that, we've got 6 things we're looking at now, all right? We've got the 2 tenets of natural, divine, universal law, which is do no harm, allow no harm to be done. We've got 4 of them that have to do with contracts: full disclosure, equal consideration, lawful terms, and the wet signatures in that reaccord. Beyond that, we've got to have other things in place, for sure. But we need to pretty much think of any statutes to come from a new framework. And in my humble opinion, and others that I've been working with in law and jurisprudence, we're looking at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. If you look at that document and read it, which takes less than 10 minutes to read, there's 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And I don't think anybody on this planet reading that would disagree with any one of those 30 articles. So if we look at it, like there's really 36 things we got to learn. There's the 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Independence and all new, what we call legalities, must be in 100% compliance with any one or number of those articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You can teach anybody beginning at age 6 or 7 those 36 points. And if that can become the foundation of their belief system, we don't need lawyers anymore. We don't need judges anymore. We don't need attorneys anymore. Really what happens is the judgment doesn't come from a judge or an adjudicator or a mediator or whatever you want to call it, magistrate. The judgment and sentences in a criminal violation or a civil violation against another actually comes from the community, the grand jury, the let's call it the elders of that community, the most righteous and just. They form the grand jury, and then the decision on a judgment or sentence must be unanimous. You're never going to get a better, more fair sentence or judgment than trying to get 25 people to all agree. I mean, it's hard enough to get 4 or 5 people to agree on something. So if you can get a grand jury together, and they're the ones, and the grand jury is of people of the community that were directly affected by a civil or criminal violation, then what do you need a judge for? You might need somebody who's a mediator that knows a little bit about the law to make sure that everything that's being done is adherent, as it were, to those 36 fundamental principles we talked about. But I think that's a good way to go forward towards our freedom, because now we're all responsible for ourselves. We're not allowing any other to be responsible for us at that point. We get out there and we act through our every outward creative expression in a responsible way. And if we were all doing that, we'd already be there right now. So
yeah, and I think it's important to note that the self-governance is where it starts.
We really have to get to that place where the governance is the attitude of the community. And everybody knows those rules. There's no little tricks. There's not 80 million statutes to confuse anybody. I mean, with the system we have today, it's all about a special interest group that their only purpose is to repeatedly do the same thing every day, which is basically pass judgment on others. And that's not really a right. That's actually a crime to stand in judgment of others for something like I don't like the fact that this community has all of the women running around in bikinis. That offends me because I'm 580 pounds, and I mean, we shouldn't be having that kind of judgment placed on others. We should all be free to do what we want to do, as long as we are not creating any harm to any person or their property, their rightful property.
Troy, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I mean, I know that we're kind of at this point in this conversation, we're replacing the word sovereignty for freedom. But people need to feel that fire, that passion back in their hearts to soar through creative processes and infuse that state of genius again in our lives. They really need to feel what freedom really feels like again. So my question would be, what can the average person do at this point in time to start moving into that state?
Well, I would say that the first place it has to start with is a personal oath, and that doesn't have to be necessarily written. It's just an oath that makes to oneself that I'm going to follow, for example, those 36 tenets we just talked about, the 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the 2 tenets of do no harm, allow no harm, do death, and the 4 tenets that relate to business interaction or trade or exchange. If we can get it down to there, that's so simple, virtually anybody can learn 36 things, trust me, and in a matter of a very short time, and start living by that code, that personal code. And when we get to that point, the only bond we really have that binds us is our word, our oath. So our oath becomes our bond, and that's really the only bond we have, because we are committed to doing right by each and every, as we would have them do unto us, right? And then our word becomes our honor. So at that point, we all have an oath. We're all bonded by our oath, and our words are our honor. And at that point, you can almost negate the whole need for contracts. If I tell Jan I'm going to help Jan with his website, and I'm going to do A, B, and C, okay, I have a responsibility, obligation, and duty to fulfill my oath, my bond, my
Yes.
word.
Yes.
You know, that is my honor. If I want to maintain my integrity and be honorable in the eyes of others, I have to act honorably. And the only way to do that is to not stand in judgment of others, but allow them to be free. And as long as they're not causing me harm in any way, or damage to my property, in the event that they do, whether that be accidental or intentional, we have to have paths to restitution.
And don't you feel that this is in direct opposition to the way everything is set up currently? So this subject of justice and self-governance and sovereignty, freedom, is really encompasses all the other subjects that have been on this program, because you can't truly be free if you can't select your own health treatment, your own religious or social, your own education system that is open and honest and provides full information, full wisdom and knowledge, and make your own decisions. So I think what I'm feeling and what a lot of people are feeling currently is the current system doesn't work. It's totally against what is the natural tendency within us and the fire in the heart that's within us. So we need to turn back inside and actually stand in our own power to be able to put this into force.
Right. Well, so the governance comes through the justice. And the justice is nothing more than an assurance that those who do good by each and every are rewarded, and those that cause harm are reprimanded. And so when we talk about reprimands, that is something that really should be a group function. The community should be saying, hey, look, we all knew what the rules were. You went ahead and stepped outside of the rules. That hurt somebody or their property. They are due restitution. And you, as the cause of that injury, have a responsibility, duty, and obligation to make good by this person. It doesn't mean you need to end up in a court. It just means you need to settle. And if you can't settle the injury that was caused to another or their property, then the community gets involved.
Yes.
So, you know, the justice system has to be coming from the community, not a special interest group like court administrators, for example.
Well, we've got our new community setting up here with all these groups coming together, and thanks to Jan and United Earth, and I think we need to take it the next step forward and just let's do this.
Indeed. So I don't really have anything more to add. I think it's pretty simple. I don't know how we get there. I think everybody has a different rate of learning and growing. But I'd like to open up the floor to any questions that anybody might have.
I think we're kind of out of time. Are we on?
We're a little bit out of time, but I feel a question burning next to me.
I would just like to thank Troy for bringing the spirit of Jake and Nolan into the conversation. That's absolutely brilliant. Looks like a blues brother. I like that. Number one, because we need some style, we need some bravado in those situations.
Absolutely.
Seriously, and like, I want to bring some excitement to this legal question because it can be quite overwhelming and pedantic and hard to grasp. So I appreciate speaking in layman's terms. Thank you for that, and I look forward to more conversations and seeing if we can institute some of this stuff in our communities.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Jean Marie, beautiful call to action. Time for us to step forward. We are doing it.
We are. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
guys.
Love, best wishes.
Okay, we'll be in touch. Exploring further possibilities for co-creation.
Thank you.
Caroline, how do I
Thank you.
unmute? Maybe I have.
Okay. All right, if you can hang up.
Okay, I heard myself say that.
Hello,